Hello, my name's Vince Sheehan, and today I'd like to talk about the Water Music by Handel. I'd like to go through this wonderful masterpiece, exploring the structures of each of the movements. Now, the Water Music was composed around about 1717 and is famous for being performed on a boat up the River Thames, following the king, or sailing to the side of the king's boat. The king was King George I, and apparently King George I, so the story goes, was feeling a bit upstaged by his son, who's the future King George II. They famously didn't get on at all, and there's this story that King George I wanted to put his son in his place and show that he can party like the best of them. There's another story as well about why Handel wrote this. He left Germany while King George I was at Elector of Hanover. Handel didn't return, and apparently King George I might have been a bit upset about that. And this is a chance for Handel to make things right. Now King George was in England. King George I was King of England. But anyway, whatever the truth of the matter is, King George I wanted music as he sailed up the Thames from Whitehall to Chelsea and back again. And Handel, who'd perhaps composed for similar trips along the Thames before, certainly provided the music for this trip in the summer of 1717. It was recorded in a Daily Courant, which is this daily newspaper at the time. And it was a resounding success. The king sailed up the Thames with his friends, with the nobility, and to the side of him were at least 50 musicians playing Handel's Water Music, what became known as the Water Music. And apparently the king loved the music so much, he wanted it to be played again on the way back. And the piece kind of became cemented in history. And it's easy to see why it's become so popular. The music's just full of the outdoors, with these kind of pairs of trumpets and horns blaring out. The music's full of life, vitality, full of good spirits. And it must have been quite a sight and a sound seeing and hearing this music back in 18th century London, going up and down the Thames. Now, the music was originally in 3 suites. A suite in F major, a suite in G major, and a suite in D major. I think roughly about 20 movements all told. But there was a manuscript near the end of Handel's life whereby the suite in F was published, and the suites in G and D were the movements are mixed up into one suite. And that's the version I'd like to talk about today, purely because it's often recorded that way, and it was certainly the way I grew up to know it in the great recording by Trevor Pinnock and the English Consort. So the first suite of the Water Music begins with a wonderful overture, which is in the French style, at least initially, with this rather grand introduction, and then the main part of the overture, the Allegro. So it's in 2 sections, an A and a B section. And the A section, the introduction, goes like this. Then that's repeated, and we go into the fast section, the Allegro, which is in a concerto grosso kind of texture, with a fugal opening. And this section could be divided into 3 further subdivisions according to modulations. And details for all the form and the structure are down below in the video description, so please check that out with bar numbers. But the main idea of the Allegro is this. That's the fugue subject, and the second violins come in after that, etc. Now, after the exposition of this fugal idea, we have a couple of other related motifs. One of them is this. Into D minor. And then the third subdivision, we have this new idea. Sounds very Italianate, like Vivaldi or something. And then at the end of this this wonderful section, this wonderful allegro of this overture, the 3 ideas are brought together into this wonderful climax, and then we have an imperfect cadence into the key of D minor, so that the movement ends abruptly, which leads us into the Adagio, the second movement. The Adagio, the second movement, and remember there's no set order to these pieces. We don't really know how they're originally sequenced, but relying on this traditional order, the second movement has this wonderfully expressive oboe solo over these beautiful chords. It's in binary form, like many pieces of the Baroque suite. You'll find it in the water music, as is common in those days. The movements are either in binary form, A-B, or in ternary form, A-B-A. This one's in binary form, and it begins like this. Third movement is one of my favourites. It's a hornpipe in a da capo aria form, A-B-A. And we have the pair of horns blaring away here, which is so characteristic of the suite in F. Bracing music, isn't it? Music of the outdoors, 18th century hunting music. Now in this long A section there's actually several motifs related to this, but my favourite one is this one, a real dance-like quality to it. As this builds up a head of steam before the trio, Handel even adds in an extra bar, I think, to throw us off guard a little bit. I love that, altering the phrase lengths. Have a listen to this. I love the way that tune is syncopated, almost like a Scotch snap rhythm, with the very regular crotchets in the bass. Just whizzes along, doesn't it? Then the B section is this beautiful trio in D minor, where the winds come to the fore. And then we're back to the raucous hijinks of the A section with the horns blaring away. The third movement again is in da capo form, ABA, and it's a Passepied, another courtly dance, and an F major of course, and the A section goes like this. Then it's extended. Very elegant music. The B section moves into D minor. Before we're back to the minuet idea. The air in the F major suite is one of the most instantly recognisable Baroque pieces, and it's easy to see why. Again, it's a binary form piece. The B section gently develops that melody. It's such an oral image of Arcadian bliss, this music. Just almost as if a Poussin painting has come to life. And the second time it's repeated, both the A and the B sections, listen out for the addition of a horn line. So beautiful. We then have another foot stomping minuet, again in da capo ABA form. Listen to how the horns chase each other. We move into the tonic minor, F minor for the trio. Before eventually we go back to the chase game of the horn duo for the A reprise. The Bourée is a very quick dance in duple time, in a kind of minuscule binary form, and it goes like this. B section. And that's repeated 3 times with different instrumental combinations. We then have another hornpipe, and I just love the cross rhythms in this one. rhythmically so exciting. Then the B section. I love that brief moment of pathos with that minor chord being spelled out. Just a real moment that gets me there in this joyous and exuberant Baroque movement. And then finally we go back into the minor mode for the final piece in this suite, which bears the hallmarks of a gavotte, and we have a pair of oboes chattering away here. So this delightful but serious binary 4 movement ends with this rather grand cadence, perfect cadence, and that ends the first suite of the Water Music in F major. Now after the F major suite there are actually 2 other suites, the D major and G major suites, and for the purposes of this video, these movements are mixed up because that's how the work is often performed. The F major suite by itself, and then the 2 other suites with the movements intermingled. The G major movements are generally a bit quieter. Perhaps they were composed for while the king was having his dinner with his courtiers, and the D major being more boisterous with pairs of trumpets blaring out. So we have this exciting opening movement in D major with these trumpet flourishes and these descending semiquavers. Really thrilling music, and this movement is basically that idea. The music very briefly modulates around about bar 23, kind of a middle section before we're back for a version of that opening fanfare. We then have one of the most famous pieces, which is the Hornpipe from the D major suite. And I remember this because it's one of the first pieces I learned how to play on the violin. And then in the B section there's this gorgeous modulation into B minor. That passage is one of my favourites out of the whole work. I just think it's so marvellous, all those the busy parts with that cross rhythm as well, cutting above. Da, 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 da. Brilliant stuff. And then of course we have the da capo return to the The next movement is the Minuet and Trio in G, and begins like this, the A section. And the B section for this goes like this. We then have a Rigaudon, which is a fast dance movement from the French suite, which Handel, of course, draws on in this work, and again in G major. Then we have one of my favourite moments, which is the B section in this da capo ABA movement. Such a delightful moment, that. Next we have another da capo aria kind of movement, ternary form, Lentement, which has this rather pastoral dotted rhythm. Da, 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 da. We then have another joyous, festive sounding movement with those D major trumpets, the Bourée, which goes like this. We then move into G minor, one of the relatively few minor mode movements. For this minuet, and then we have one of my favourite movements. Just listen out for the piccolo here. The next movement, again in G minor, is one of my favourites. The B section in this piece as well has kind of got this foot stomping nature of a square dance or something. And the final movement is this Menuet in D major And it's a rather magnificent and grand way to close this remarkable music. So there we have it, Handel's Water Music. Music composed for a special royal occasion, perhaps several occasions, along the River Thames. And music so fresh, so vibrant, so exciting, so joyful, and so superbly and expertly composed, it is still heard 300 years later. Handel, we salute you. Thank you for watching this. If this is your kind of thing, please click like and subscribe. I do keep a list of pieces people want me to look at, so if there's something you'd like me to look at, I'll add it to the list. Just put it in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.